A gang of 4 men have been sentenced for raping and sexually assaulting 2 girls in Newcastle. The 4 men came to this country as refugees/asylum seekers. 3 were from Syria and 1 was from Kuwait. Omar Badreddin, Mohamad Badreddin, Huzaefa Alaboud and Hamoud Al-Soaimi were convicted of multiple offences following a trial at Newcastle Crown Court last year. They've actually been sentenced today. Mohamad Badreddin, who was the only one of the 4 who was over 18 at the time of the offences, was jailed for 18 years. The assaults took place in 2018 and 2019 when the victims were aged between 12 and 14. Some of them took place at the city's Castle Keep, while others happened behind the Five Guys restaurant. One victim, who was raped or assaulted by all 4 of the defendants between the ages of 13 and 14, told the court, "Because of them, I feel I've been robbed of my childhood. I've been tortured by those men. They've hurt me in so many ways." She also said she had self-harmed because of the exploitation, leaving her with scars which have meant she is uncomfortable wearing a bikini. She added, "These scars will be with me for the rest of my life, but as well as being physically scarred, I am emotionally scarred. Those scars are a constant reminder to me of what I have lived through." The other girl, who was 12 when she was subject to a sexual assault, said, "At times I would have angry outbursts in which I was unable to stop crying. I was so young at the time I didn't know how to cope or who to turn to." Mohamad Badreddin, then aged 17, was aggressive and rough with her and threatened that his brother Omar, then aged 20, would hurt her if she didn't do stuff with him. The girl was also raped at her own home, with the brothers who had moved to the UK as refugees from the war in Syria telling her she would be killed or taken to another country. She was raped by Omar Badreddin on at least 7 different occasions, the first time immediately after his brother Mohammed had raped her. Alaboud, then aged 17, also a refugee from Syria, badgered the girl to have sexual contact with him by saying she had let the Badreddin brothers do it. Al-Soaimi, who was 15 at the time and from Kuwait, was heard by a passing witness saying it was his turn with the girl after she'd been raped. He also sexually assaulted a 12-year-old girl. In mitigation for Mohamad Badreddin, Sue Hurst said he'd grown up in war zone Syria, and that's it. His mitigation for what he actually did, or his defence, was that he actually grew up in Syria and came here as a refugee from a war. So that gives him some sort of right to do what he actually did. Absolutely unbelievable defence. That is absolutely unbelievable. And it goes much the same with his brother Omar. And it's been said that he was haunted by his experience in Syria, having lost an older brother in the conflict, and felt deep shame and guilt for being in prison. But again, it doesn't say about the victim that they felt any shame for what they did or any guilt. It's more the fact that they actually feel deep shame and guilt for just being in prison. This goes on much the same for Robin Patton for Alaboud. Said he'd been in a physical puny after undergoing treatment for reoccurring childhood cancer, not being a leader of the group. But again, that's mitigating. What kind of defence is that? Is that trying to portray him as some sort of victim? It's unbelievable. And the last one this is the youngest guy, and this is the guy from Kuwait. The first 3 I mentioned there were all from Syria. So his mitigation for Al-Soaimi. Joe Hedworth said his family moved to the UK from Kuwait in 2016, adding he was immature and easily led. So that's the actual defence. Absolutely unbelievable, to be honest with you. It really was unbelievable. So the judge said Badreddin brothers led the group and quickly identified the girl could be manipulated and groomed. She said they treated her like a toy and found it entertaining, exploiting her and using her for sex. Even when she begged you to treat her more kindly and told you truthfully she was harming herself and could not cope, you made fun of her. The judge also said the other defendants were followers of the brothers and learned from them that local girls were there to be used and played with. The girl tried to learn their language and started reading the Quran in an attempt to befriend the men, and in return she was abused and passed around. The men, the first of 3 of whom will sign the Sexual Offenders Register for life, and Al-Soaimi for 10 years, received the following sentences. Omar Badreddin was convicted of 5 counts of rape. He was sentenced to 18 years in prison. Mohammed, his brother, was convicted of 6 counts of rape and 1 count of assault. by penetration. He was jailed for 13 years. Huzaefa Alaboud was convicted of 2 counts of rape, assault by penetration and assault occasionally actually bodily harm, and was jailed for 5.5 years. Hamoud Al-Soaimi, who was 15 at the time, was convicted of 3 counts of sexual assault and assaulting a child under 13 by penetration. Unbelievably, he walked free from court after being given a 2-year suspended sentence. Yeah, truly horrendous case this, where one of the victims been as young as 12. There may be other victims who might come forward, I don't know. He hasn't said that, but you just never know with these types of cases, something might happen. Very familiar case happened in Newcastle in the same area several years ago, but they were found not guilty. And one of the defendants who was found guilty last year and had been sentenced today was part of that not guilty case, well, I think it's about 3-4 years ago. So yeah, you have to look that one up. So it's very alarming to see that. But again, these people are allowed to come into the country. I know one of them, the Q80 guy, the youngest one of the one who was actually let off, basically, he came with his family. But the other 3, as far as I'm aware, they may have came as lone refugees or lone asylum seekers, whatever the terminology that they use or you want to use. And they've gone to obviously commit these particular crimes. But these are the types of people letting in. It's just sickening to see. And again, the victims, vulnerable white working class girls, which we're seeing across the north of England. Right, thanks for your continued support. And again, I can only apologise for these types of stories, but they are happening. Take care, everybody. God bless, and see you soon.